Hello everyone, welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all of the latest news from the world of movies, plus a little bit of insight into what it all means. Joining us as always is AMC Movie News Editor-in-Chief John Campea.
Greetings and salutations everybody, welcome to the best damn movie related show on the internet, coming to you live from the Stream.tv studios here in Hollywood, California. Coming off my third screening of X-Men Days of Future Past, got to see it about 3 or 4 more times.
Also here, writer-director John Schnepp.
Hey, I didn't see X-Men. Again, I'm going to at least a few more times, but I saw Locke, so check that out if you haven't seen it.
Oh, so good.
It's a really good film.
Also here, AMC's very own Miri Jedikin.
I didn't see X-Men again, but I did watch Batman Begins because it was on TV last night, so why not?
Yay! Yay.
Despite being attached to direct the upcoming Marvel film Ant-Man since 2006, director Edgar Wright has left the project. A statement put out by Marvel said the following. Marvel and Edgar Wright jointly announced today that the studio and director have parted ways on Ant-Man due to differences in their vision of the film. The decision to move on is amicable and does not impact the release date on July 17, 2015. A new director will be announced shortly. Unconfirmed reports suggest that Marvel ordered a rewrite recently of Edgar's script, which significantly changed the story, leading Wright to depart the film. John, your thoughts on Edgar Wright leaving Ant-Man?
It's so unfortunate. It's really just so unfortunate. I mean, since 2006, we've been looking forward to Edgar Wright doing Ant-Man. And I think, you know, I've gotten a chance to hang out with Edgar a number of times. He's done some stuff with me, and he's just like the nicest, sweetest, coolest guy. And it's so cool. And if we got this picture shortly, and now for those of you who know, Edgar Wright has done a series of films that they call Cornetto Trilogy. So after they announced that he was leaving the project, director Joss Whedon took to his online presence and put up this picture. Let's bring up that picture, holding up, you know, the head. Look, even Joss Whedon nails the lighting in this little picture that he put together. Kind of a, you know, a sorry to see Edgar Wright go. And it's got a lot of people speculating. Now this is where it gets dangerous. There are 2 separate reports going on online. One is plausible, one's not so much. One report said that Marvel fired him because he was falling behind on production schedule and wasn't able to get everything caught up to speed. But for most things that I'm reading, that was just nonsense. There's another report that is completely unconfirmed, but it seems to hold some weight to it, that basically says a number of months ago, Marvel came back to Edgar and said, we need to make these changes, and had some changes about the morality of the lead character and 1 or 2 other key Marvel Universe characters they wanted to include in the script. That's not unlike what Marvel did with Joss Whedon on the first Avengers. Remember, Marvel went to Whedon and said, no, you got to change this, just this, and he did it, and it turned out great, as it turns out. So Edgar Wright did a rewrite of the script, and Marvel didn't like it. So Marvel got one of their in-house writers, completely separate from Edgar, to do a rewrite. And when they submitted it to Edgar to read, apparently they had completely changed. It was a different movie. Edgar didn't want to do that movie. Marvel did, and so they decided to part ways after 8 years of being on this project. Now, people can speculate a lot. What I thought was really interesting is another director of an upcoming Marvel film, James Gunn, who was on this show about a month or so ago. He weighed in on this and put out a statement. I'm just going to read this statement that James Gunn made, and I think it's a pretty brilliant statement, but here's what he said. James Gunn, writing about the departure of Edgar Wright, he goes, sometimes you have friends in a relationship. You love each of them dearly as individuals and think they're amazing people. When they talk to you about their troubles, you do everything you can to support them, to keep them together, because if you love them both so much, doesn't it make sense that they should also love each other? But little by little you realize, at heart, they aren't meant to be together. Not because there's anything wrong with either of them, but they just don't have the personalities that mesh in a comfortable way. They don't make each other happy. Although it's sad to see them split, when they do, you're surprisingly relieved and excited to see where lives take each of them next. It's easy to try to make one party right and another party wrong when a breakup happens, but it often isn't that simple. Or perhaps it's even more simple than that. Not everybody belongs in a relationship together. It doesn't mean they're not wonderful people. And that's true of both Edgar Wright and Marvel. One of them isn't a person, but I think you get what I mean. I think one of the things that like everybody likes to jump up and down, first of all, and support the artist and blame the man. And Marvel in this case is the man. So everybody's like, well, this is the beginning of the downfall of Marvel, doing, throwing themselves in and interfering with the filmmaking process and all this kind of stuff. But we often forget that they started this journey in 2006 before the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it today existed. And I think it's completely plausible, at any rate, that now what this Ant-Man concept and movie that looked so great in theory at one point, now when Marvel sits back and looks actually at their existing cinematic universe and the tone of it and how it works, to go, this idea was great in 2006 and 2007, 2008, but it doesn't work for us anymore. And so I think what James Gunn is saying is, you could see the writing on the wall, that you had one creative vision and then another force whose vision changed because the times have changed. Not that Wright is out of time or anything like that, not at all. But he's saying, James Gunn is saying we could see this coming, that this wasn't going to work. So it's unfortunate, it's sad, but I don't blame Edgar, I don't blame Marvel. I think it's just a situation where you had two good parties and circumstances just meant it wasn't going to work. But I'm still sad. I wanted to see an Edgar Wright Ant-Man. I really did. And maybe this will turn out best for him. Maybe he'll make something else that's amazing. Maybe this will turn out best for Marvel, because maybe now they're going to get a director that's more in line with their vision on it, and it's going to be great. Who knows? Let's just hope for great things for all of them. Anyway, Schnepp, you and I've had discussions about this before, but your reaction to this and the various reactions you've seen around it.
I'm bummed. I mean, I hope Edgar Wright doesn't make Small Man next. Like, he's like, I'm going to still make my Tiny Man movie, Tiny Man, or Little Man, or whatever. Bug Dude. But yeah, I'm really disappointed to hear that it didn't work out. But upon reflection and hearing about, the script changes and this and 8 years, and you can totally see it. I don't even know if Kevin Feige was around in 2006.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head.
And so, overall, like the 8 years, and then he had to take a break and do World's End due to other circumstances. They had to rush through that just to honor another film, another producer. A whole bunch of different circumstances happened that kept pushing Ant-Man off. And as Ant-Man got pushed off, more Marvel movies came out and established the tone. Like the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, obviously that was a little off. They didn't continue that Hulk. They didn't continue with Edward Norton. They're going to fix it. I'm sure they're going to have a Hulk movie with Mark Ruffalo. That would be a mistake not to. Maybe Phase 4 or whatever. But they've established their universe now. So, like, you look at something like The Amazing Spider-Man 2, that doesn't even fit within the first Amazing Spider-Man. The tones are all off, and so they've got some issues over at Sony that they got to work on. Marvel is a machine. It's a smooth-running machine. Everyone's excited for Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that's going to be a smash sleeper hit because it's exciting. It's new, but it also has that tone that we're familiar with. We're excited to see a new Marvel movie that we know is coming from Marvel Central, which I guess Disney, Marvel, whatever you want. How would you define like Marvel? It's not Marvel Fox. It's Marvel or what?
Marvel Studios.
Marvel Studios. So Edgar Wright's Ant-Man not being a derivation, it's not part of like the weird X-Men anomaly or Fantastic Four or Spider-Man. It's part of this cinematic universe. They, as the parent company, are wanting to mesh it in and make sure it works. So Ant-Man can be in that Avengers 3. And we can have a crossover with Black Panther. However they're going to work. The Inhumans are in there. However they want to introduce other characters. Also, Scott Lang's a thief. He's a villain. It really depends. Like we haven't read the script, so I'm sure there were a lot of issues that had been going on for over the several years that we're not aware of. Him and Joe Cornish wrote the screenplay, and then they had someone rewrite it, and I'm sure he was like, this is not going to be my movie, I can't work this way, or however that happened, and they just were like, let's just leave it as is. And I think the way Gunn described it is a great metaphor, so.
All right, Mary?
Yeah, I agree. I do feel like the child of divorce a little bit, like it didn't work out and I'm so sad, but I think you're right. I think it's there's so much that goes on that we don't know about. There's so many conversations that were had and creative meetings that were led and that we'll never know. We'll never know exactly what went down and why this happened. We can speculate till we're blue in the face. The bottom line is, I just don't want to see an Ant-Man movie that's bad, and I think that Marvel has been doing really well with all their movies. Like generally, the quality level of Marvel movies is pretty high. It's good to really amazing. So I'm hoping that this decision is for the best of the film on both sides. That Edgar Wright felt like, okay, my vision isn't in keeping with this universe, and they felt like, okay, Edgar Wright isn't the right guy to see this vision through in a way that's cohesive with the rest of what we have going on. So. It's a conscious uncoupling, I guess. I don't know.
So, I mean, it's just really unfortunate that it worked out this way.
It is.
All right, what's next?
Bad news, Harry Potter fans. Although it was revealed last week that Academy Award-winning director Alfonso Cuaron was in negotiations to direct the upcoming Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the filmmaker has apparently decided against it. In a recent interview, Cuaron said the following: "I have a lot of love for that universe, and I tremendously admire J.K. Rowling. But today, for the present, projects based around lots of visual effects don't attract me. I'm coming out of a 5-year process of doing visual effects, and now I sort of want to clean my palette of that a little bit." Schnepp, what do you think of Cuaron's comments?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I totally see where he's coming from. Am I disappointed as a film goer to not be able to see his take on that property? Yes, but as a director myself, like I worked in animation, directing Death Clock for 8 years, and then doing a couple more animated shorts. And now I'm doing a documentary, I'm writing a feature film that I want to work with actors again. That's how I got started, was working with actors in live action. So every once in a while, like, I could totally see why he's like, look, I don't want to be in a blue screen or green screen or purple screen world. I don't want to work with wires or creatures or 3D. I want to work with real people, real sets. Let's do this. Even if he does the Overlook hotel, whatever that Shining thing is that they were talking about.
Pretty cool.
I could see now why he might even be interested in doing that, because it's like, we're in a hotel with real people.
Yeah.
So, there's nothing wrong with that.
Mary?
Yeah, apparently in that same interview that he was quoted he also said that he had no awareness of the Overlook Hotel rumors. So that's so who knows? So I'm actually happy to hear that as well, because I would like to see him, like I said last week when we talked about this, I would like to see him do another original idea of his, because he's so good at that. So to see him jump from Gravity to a franchise, whether it's a new franchise with Harry Potter or a prequel to The Shining, I just don't feel like that's the right move that I want to see from him as someone who appreciates his art. I want to see him do more of his own amazing stuff. So
yeah, I mean, what it sounds like to me was that he loves working with Rowling. He probably really loved the script, and then the more he started to look at it and think about it, do I really want to work with setting up 18-foot, 25-foot high blue walls again and doing this? And I think you're absolutely right. This sounds like, look, I just want to get my hands dirty again. I want to make some films, some practical. I want to drag some cameras around and do all this kind of stuff. And you're right. I think it's totally fine for him that he's doing that. It's probably a good move for him right now. Step away from what he's been doing, change it up a bit. I've always said directors need to do that. I mean, that's why I think Sam Raimi kind of dropped the bed a little bit on Spider-Man 3. He was just immersed in that one world too long. Time to get out.
Meat grinder. Just like.
And then when he got away from it, he did what I thought was an amazing Wizard of Oz movie. Like, I thought he did a great job with that Wizard of Oz movie. So I think this is pretty good, and I think we're okay with it. All right, folks, so we've reached that part of the show for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Ashley's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. Then Schnepp, Miri, and I are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Ashley, what do we got?
Universal Pictures has just moved the release date of their upcoming Scarlett Johansson film Lucy up 2 weeks and will now hit AMC theaters everywhere on July 25th. This means the film will be going head-to-head against the Dwayne Johnson-led Hercules and the Cameron Diaz and Jason Segel comedy Sex Tape. The film was originally slated to open on August 8th against the 100-Foot Journey, Into the Storm, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Mary, buy or sell Lucy moving to July 25th?
I'm going to buy this. I think Universal is making probably a wise decision. They're looking at the slate and what's coming out, and they're looking at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Sword and Sandals Hercules, and figuring out which one they can sort of bat against better. And I think probably Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has a broader audience. It has a bigger audience. So they were probably looking at that and thinking, okay, let's jump this up 2 weeks so that we have a little bit more leverage at the box office. That's clearly why they would make this decision. I can't imagine it's for any creative reason. I'm happy as a moviegoer because I'm really excited to see this film. So I get it 2 weeks earlier, so that's good for me.
I've got to sell this. I actually think it's a mistake leaving going against Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because I think Lucy provides really cool counter programming to that. Plus, what else would it be opening against? The 100-Foot Journey, which I think looks amazing, but not a lot of people are going to go see it. And Into the Storm, which doesn't have a lot of wide awareness right now. I think it was better positioned then, the opening on the same weekend as The Rock. Regardless of what it is, you could put out a movie called The Rock Eating Soup, and it's going to make 20 million opening weekend,
I would
right?
see it.
Yeah, I'm probably going to see it.
This is
But he has a baby lion on his head.
Post Tooth Fairy.
Yes,
Like, come on, we gotta be like The Rock
yeah.
before and after. There's like some changing.
And that weekend already has a strong counter-programming film in Sex Tape, which is looking better and better with every new clip I see from that movie. So I got to say, I'm going to sell it. I think this was the wrong move, Schnepp.
I'm going to buy it just because I think, like, not only with the failure of the other Hercules movie, I think they're like, look, I think we can, like, you got the counter programming with the comedy, you got a little action. They're like, they're the big action movie, I think. Well, seeing that trailer for Lucy, this is like Scarlett Johansson's year. She's like, under the skin, go see it. It's at AMC. It's playing at 11:30 at night, but go see that movie. It's amazing. I'm really excited to see this. It could be the return of greatness to Luc Besson.
The movie looks awesome.
Yeah, so I mean,
excited.
I think, you know, it's a smart move because it's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles would probably be #1 even if Lucy came out. At least this weekend, it's going to be a fight. So.
All right, what's next?
X-Men Days of Future Past easily won the box office battle this weekend, taking in $91 million on its opening weekend, $111 million for the extended weekend, and over $300 million worldwide. This marks the 5th biggest Memorial Day weekend opening in history and the 2nd biggest opening of an X-Men film, just slightly behind X-Men 3. John, buy or sell these results for X-Men Days of Future Past?
I'm actually going to sell it. These are good numbers. These are great numbers. But this goes to show you, if you have poor films or poorer than you want them to have films in your franchise, it will affect the future ones. The reason the biggest opening weekend ever for an X-Men film, and it's X-Men The Last Stand, X-Men 3, which is universally accepted as probably the poorest of the X-Men films, but it's the biggest opening weekend. Why? Because it's coming off an amazing X-Men film in X-Men 2. With this one, you had, you know, that's why Days of Future Past, or not Days of Future Past, I'm sorry, X-Men First Class didn't have a huge opening weekend because it was coming off of weak stuff. We had mediocre responses to The Last Wolverine, which was the most recent X-Men film. So coming into this, it will do great though. One more thing I want to mention about X-Men Days of Future Past though. You know, X-Men Days of Future Past has 4 villains in it. You're talking about Trask, you're talking about Magneto, you're talking about the Sentinels themselves, and you're talking Mystique as well. First, she was an off and on, whatever, hero or villain, depending on how you want to look at it. You had William Stryker, you had, you know, all the the problem is not having too many villains. The issue is how do you use them. This is a near perfect comic book film. Near perfect. And it had all those villains, but you use them right, and so number of villains doesn't really matter. I'm off topic. Miri.
I'm going to buy this just because I'm so thrilled for the success of this film, because I feel like this is one of those movies that, yes, this is a movie that's heavily steeped in comic book lore and the fans. It's giving them fan service, but it's also a movie that people can go see that have no knowledge of X-Men and really enjoy it. And it has that crossover appeal, and I think the numbers show it. I think it had a huge monster weekend because it transcended any boundaries that comic book movies might have. And it just was a great crowd pleaser. It was a fun movie. I loved it, so I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I'll buy it as well. I think it's a reboot without being a reboot. I mean, it literally kind of reforms the X-Men and takes all the cool things that we liked about them and adds to that, and takes all the negative stuff and trashes it via time travel. We're like, hey, dumpage, you know? So, I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, rush out to go see it. And I think it won't have that 50% drop off. I think it'll like maintain. It might have a 30% drop off in the second weekend. You know,
I know we got 2 big films opening this weekend. We got A Million Ways to Die in the West, and we got Maleficent. So I think we're going to see a 50% drop.
Really, I think
too much competition.
Word of mouth. Let's bet. We're on the side. We're going to make a bet.
Well, set the over under at 48%. You'll take the under 48%. I'm going to take the over on 48%.
But what about also the fact that, like, you went to see it? You're like 7 times you're going to go see it in the theater. People are going to go see this again, so it's going to have that repeat viewer.
But not everybody's as stupid as me.
Or as diehard fan.
It's worth seeing at least 3 times in theater.
At least. All right, what's next?
Speaking of X-Men, writer Simon Kinberg recently made some revelations about the next X-Men film, X-Men Apocalypse. In a recent interview, Kinberg said the following: "It will focus primarily on the first-class cast, but it will certainly have some of the original cast involved too." Schnepp, buy or sell Kinberg's comments on X-Men Apocalypse?
enthusiastically buy that. I mean, I think they set that up. This is a spoiler a little bit. Can I say something about Wolverine?
Careful.
Anyway, they set that up in the movie that if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. They set it up so that you can have the, First Class moving into the 80s, which we all know that's been the game plan. 60s, then the second one is the 70s, the third one is the 80s, but also mesh in some other awesomeness with the original cast. I don't want to be a spoiler person, but I think it's an awesome thing, and I'm glad that Simon Kinberg confirmed it, because I can't wait to see more adventures with Michael Fassbender and McAvoy as a Professor X and Magneto. They're such a perfect cast.
They are magnificent together, but I'm going to sell it. Ooh. Yeah, I only because, don't get me wrong, I'm excited for the movie still. I'm going to go see it, really happy, but as great as Fassbender and McAvoy are, and they are awesome as Professor X and Magneto, nothing for me will ever top Sir Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart as the pair. And I'll be honest with you, if I could pick and I was in charge of Fox, I'd want to do X-Men Apocalypse with the present cast. I really, really would. That's no disrespect to the First Class cast. And I've been excited anyway, but if I had my choice, I'd go with the original cast.
I'm going to buy it, but I do love Sir Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, and I would like to see a world where they can do what they did with this film and have all of the cast members sort of coexist, and I don't know how they would do it, but I like them all, and I'd like to see them all in the future. But I am going to buy it more because I feel like X-Men as a whole, as a franchise, is starting to kind of step up into Avengers territory and being something really untouchable and really exciting at the box office with everyone involved. So bring them all back. Let's all have a picnic together.
Can I add on to something you were saying earlier? Like with First Class, that brought people who had abandoned the X-Men franchise back.
Yeah.
But it still wasn't a big hit. That's why, like what you were saying is like, we're dealing with two things, like X-Men Last Stand and First Class, like a reboot, and people who didn't go see Wolverine because of Wolverine Origins. So you have to bring all these people back. So that's the hard part of what this film is doing, and it's doing a great job.
Yeah, no, totally good. All right, folks, we reached that part of the show for mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Every day we take a little bit of time and answer your questions. I'm going to let you know, too, if you're watching us live, we're going to save a minute or two at the end of the show to take your live questions. You can tweet in live questions to @AMC Movie News. But for now, let's get to the mailbag. So, Ashley, what's in there?
Tracy Copeland writes, John and AMC crew love the show. Question, how is Professor X still alive after the events of The Last Stand? Can this be explained? Thanks, and keep bringing the filthy.
Well, at the end of, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but you've had a chance to watch the movie. At the end of the last Wolverine film, the post-credit scene is, of course, Wolverine walking into an airport, and then Magneto and Professor Charles Xavier, who Wolverine thought was dead. It's like, what are you doing here? And it's basically, I'll explain later. They never explain it. They never do. You know why? Because X-Men, Days of Future Past, fixes every continuity problem. It doesn't really matter. But my functioning assumption has always been, you remember in the last X-Men, they said there was this comatose guy, and maybe it's okay maybe you can transfer your consciousness, since that dude's brain dead or whatever, into another person. And at the end credit scene, you see Moira looking at that body, but you don't see the body, and you just hear Charles's voice going, Moira. And she looks and goes, ah! Then the prevailing theory was that the guy laying comatose in Moira's care was actually the comatose twin brother of Charles Xavier. That's been the operating theory, but they've never addressed it, and they never will. And you know what? They don't need to anymore, but that's the theory. Have you guys heard anything different on that?
No, but I'd like to know, who was that dude at the end of X-Men Wolverine Origins walking like, come on, everyone, with the weird CG Patrick Stewart face? What's that? I mean, that's the one that I'm more confused about.
All right, what's next?
Dear AMC Movie Talk, I love the show. Why do celebrities feel the need to charge their fans for meet and greets? Most of them have millions of dollars already from their work. I don't see why they charge their fans to meet them, because it seems like it's done out of pure greed. I feel this is not right because it takes out all of the fun of meeting stars. And where does all the money go from these meet and greets?
I'm going to be honest with you. I have no problem with it whatsoever, and I never have. I mean, as long as you don't get ridiculous with charging for it. Look, these actors, they're taking, first of all, time out of their schedule that they could be acting and making money. They go to these fan things because the fans want an opportunity to see them. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I have a chance I mean, I've met Harrison Ford before, but if I have a chance to go put my arm around Harrison Ford, get my picture with him, and you can tell me as a fan I got paid $50 to do it, pfft, no problem. No problem. So if he's going to get on a plane, fly to San Diego Comic-Con, take 3 days out of his life, sit there at a booth, have thousands of people come and go and stuff like that, I think it's completely reasonable. I do. Everybody who's not a millionaire thinks people who have money should do everything for free. That's our natural instinct to think, but if we're really rational about it, I don't think that's the case. Anyway, Schnepp, you do a lot of signings at various comic conventions, things like that.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, like...
And you're a millionaire, so...
Yeah, I'm obviously a millionaire. That's the other thing. It's like, they're all millionaires. Like, look, I'd say like 99% of everyone who's doing these signings are not millionaires. I can guarantee you that. Just because they're on TV does not make them like, I've got 6 houses and 30 cars.
Yeah.
They all have to do their job, which for this certain thing is acting or writing or directing, whatever it is, why they're at the convention. And they're being asked from the people who are running these conventions to come and make an appearance and show up. Usually they have a booth. I'll do signings, and if you bring stuff, I'll sign it for free. I don't charge for that. But I have stuff that I'm selling, and people will buy it. Bigger stars like John Barrowman and a whole bunch of different, like Michael Rooker, all the Walking Dead people, they'll do these you pay $100 and you get a picture with all of them, or they'll do this package deal. It's because it's a part of their job. They're taking time out of their day, out of their life to bring them and maybe their family to this other state or, across the world, wherever they are going. And I agree with John. Like if Harrison Ford was like doing a thing where it's like, pay $100. I don't know Harrison Ford. Yeah. I wouldn't want to awkwardly walk up to him and shambling after him, or he's for dinner and interrupt his dinner. Can I take a photo with you? It's like, don't ever do that. That's incredibly rude. You have to respect people. It's their lives. Like, would you like someone to just bother you at your job? So, I mean, I think that's them giving that chance to interact with someone who appreciates their work. $100 is nothing if you get it. Hey, a lot of people take photos of rock stars. It's like, it's just a picture, it's like, or a signature. But if you get that chance to interact with them in that way and show appreciation, I'd throw $150 at Harrison Ford.
Mary?
$200.
Yeah, I think the other thing to add to that is that this is something that is arranged for them by their agents, just like gigs. This is a gig for them. So when they go and they sit and they sign autographs and they take pictures, like you said, it's a give and take. It's a chance for fans to get up close with the people they love, the writers, directors, actors. And for the actors, directors, writers, it's a chance to get up close to their fans in a way that is professional, that's appropriate. There's no privacy lines being crossed. Their agents have booked it all. It's all legit. So this is like a really legitimate way for them to interact, fans and stars or directors or whatever.
Sure.
And I can't imagine a world where, like you were saying before we were on camera, imagine if it were free, the line would be 5 days long. So there has to be a culling of like, are you really, really want this? Okay, well then, pay the $50. It's not a big deal.
And of course, you might have some differing opinions on that, and that's totally cool. But right now, we're almost out of time here, but we are going to take a couple questions on Twitter. So Ashley, what are people asking on Twitter?
Chijito writes, can you see Katie saying Maggie's lines in TDK or Edward saying Mark's in the Avengers? Does recasting change characters at all?
I think when you're making your characters, you do have to take into consideration who's saying them. When you first write the dialogue, most of the time you don't know who it is, but sometimes you tailor it to the actor. But the most important thing is that, once again, the script is not there to serve the actors are there to serve the script. It's the actor's job to bring those lines to life. You guys?
Yeah, I just want to say, like with Mystique, I loved Rebecca Romijn, and then when Jennifer Lawrence was cast, I felt it was a miscast. I actually kind of changed my mind with Days of Future Past because I thought she really stepped into the role physically.
Yeah.
But it also is about physicality. It's not just what you say or the words on the page.
I would say Dumbledore changing in Harry Potter was a horrible thing because the main actor died.
Yeah.
They had to replace him, and they replaced him with someone who physically looked different, but still maintained that presence. So.
Yeah, and I don't think they changed any of the dialogue because they had a different actor.
No doubt.
All right, what's next?
Charlie Chris writes, who would you guys like to see as a villain in the next, if there is one, solo Batman film?
Well, I mean, we all want to see. I mean, I've said this before. I'd love to see KG Beast. Of course, I'd be excited if there was actually a Joker. Don't believe the rumor going around this morning, by the way, of Adrian Brody being the Joker. Don't believe it. But anyway, yeah. Anything off the top of your head?
Boy, I would like to see a new version of the Riddler.
Yeah, I was going to say, or the Penguin also, because, I mean, I love Danny DeVito, but it would be cool to see what we could do now with something darker and a little less comical.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Mia Maxima Culpa writes, who do you think was more visually stunning, Smaug in The Hobbit or Godzilla?
Ooh,
oh,
that's a good question.
I'm going to say Smaug, but only because there was also personality to it and all that kind of stuff. Godzilla looked awesome. but I'm going to give the nod to Smaug.
I say Godzilla just because it's Godzilla. And yes, I don't know. Let them fight.
I'm going to say, like, I'll go with Godzilla, even though I like the movie less than the Smaug, the Lord of the Rings Smaug movie. I just found that Smaug was overused for me. Like he never even burned one of the dwarves. Nobody even got damaged. Godzilla caused massive damage, and he looked cooler, I think so.
All right, let's take a couple more.
Asmin K writes, question, can we see Ben Affleck directing some other comic book movies other than Batman?
Not if they're not going to be in the same cinematic universe. Like I wouldn't lose my mind over it if they said, oh, Ben Affleck's also going to direct the Aquaman movie. What I would think would be completely out of left field is if, oh, Ben Affleck is now going to do Ant-Man, since Edgar Wright has departed. That would be weird. But if he stays within that cinematic universe that he's working in already anyway, I wouldn't be surprised with that.
Yeah, I'd like to see him jump into that again and try his hand at it. Comic book movies.
I think it'd be weird if he took over the Daredevil.
I was
He was like, now that Drew Goddard left, I'm not going to play Daredevil. I'm just going to oversee it and showrun, even though they got the Spartacus showrunner.
Stephen tonight?
Yeah. You know what? Ben Affleck's going to be really busy for the next 10 years doing superhero stuff as Batman and maybe directing the Batman movie. So I don't see, I'm sure he'll do other stuff after the 10 years.
All right, what's next?
Isaac O writes, could we ever see a Young Justice or Teen Titans movie?
No. Guys?
Nope. No.
Okay, what's next?
Raymond writes, do you guys think we could get a Chef Gordon Ramsay biopic film?
Oh.
I'd be interested in that, come to think of it.
Awesome.
I think that would
That'd
actually be
so
really
fantastic.
interesting.
We were talking about that.
play
John's
him?
he's in a kitchen nightmare.
I am in an episode of Kitchen Nightmares, actually. I've met
Maybe
Gordon
that's why they
Ramsay.
asked the question.
Then here's the thing. Who do you get to play Gordon Ramsay?
That's what I was gonna say.
You have to get Gordon Ramsay.
He's awesome.
As himself?
I even watched what's the weird show that where he goes to people's hotels?
Oh, the hotels.
Yes.
Yes.
Hotel Hell.
Nightmare.
Hotel Hell.
So good.
That was
My girlfriend was
I
like,
think
you
it
know,
was
there's
canceled
another.
after like
So what
7
would the
episodes.
tagline
It's
be?
canceled?
Like, Gordon Ramsay, why did he get so mean? Like, why did he become mean? Like, what's his origin?
Gordon Ramsay hyphen you bloody idiot or something like
Chef
that.
from Hell.
Chef from Hell.
No, he's awesome.
I love Gordon
If you've
Ramsay.
never seen a Gordon
so
Ramsay, just watch
mean.
any those hotel ones are great. I didn't know it was canceled. My girlfriend Holly was
Yeah,
like, "You got to watch it. You didn't
I
know
think it was
about
canceled.
these?" I think I watched all 8 of them. I was
eight.
like, "I want more." Yeah.
I actually stayed in one of the hotels in San Diego that he talked about. Like,
Really?
yeah, I really did, and you can see the differences that they made and all that kind of stuff. He's such a vivid, wild, loud personality. But then my wife has watched some of his cooking videos online, and that he does from home, and he often does them with his children and his whatever. Totally different guy.
Yeah, it's a persona.
Yeah,
Right.
but then once he gets
But
in and
he's
starts,
mean.
but I'm telling you, I was on that episode of Kitchen Nightmares, and you could see when the cameras weren't even on him, there were no cameras on him, and he's in the back with the owners and the chef, and like, blah, 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 like totally on them.
Well, because they deserve it. I mean, when you see when they open that kitchen door and there's a rotting, festering food, he's like, scooping it out. Look at this. Look at this. Like, it's like, yeah, show them. I can't believe we've probably
so
eaten there.
gnarly.
Yeah, it's
All right,
it's
let's.
awesome.
Okay, we're getting off on a tangent here. Let's take one more from the Twitter stream.
Nicholas Sergi writes, has any film offended you?
The one film that's offended me, look, art is art, and I tend not to get offended by just about anything. The only film I've ever been offended by, and a lot of people haven't, they think I look at it the wrong way, and that's totally cool, I accept that. But for me, was the Johnny Knoxville film, where he plays
Grandpa?
where he played the Special Olympian. Why am I forgetting? I just had the name of it off the tip of my tongue. You know the film I'm talking about. But that I understood what they were going for was to portray special needs people in like a really positive, normal light. And I understand that the joking in it was meant just to make some of the characters look stupid, make Knoxville look stupid for the attitudes. But to me, it came across as offensive.
Yeah.
I was really uncomfortable with it. And that's one of the only 3 movies in my life I've actually walked out of. Was that one. So, yeah, that was me. Have you guys ever been offended by a film?
I was offended by, there was an Eli Roth horror movie that came out where there's a huge earthquake in Chile last
That was
year.
recent. That was
Yeah, I
just
saw
recent.
that.
Yeah.
Aftershock.
Yeah, Aftershock. There was some, I'm not going to get into it for people who haven't seen it because I don't want to spoil it, but there was some brutality in that movie that that I thought was unnecessary and just offensive.
By the way, I've been reminded that the name of the John Knoxville movie was The Ringer.
The Ringer.
Oh, right.
What about you, Schnepp? Ever offended?
Well, offended. I mean, you know what? I can take a lot. When like I'll be watching a movie and hating it, and if I'm with someone, I'm like I'll start talking about it with them. Usually, I'll go see a movie that I'm not excited about in the afternoon, so I'm not bothering people. I never talk in theaters unless I'm by myself or with a small group of people. But I think The Counselor was the most recent one that I was like.
That's a good one.
I was sitting with Holly, and I was like, I can't believe how much this sucks. It was halfway through the movie. It was me and like Holly, an old person in the background, like maybe half sleeping. But yeah, I was actually, we made it through. I didn't walk out. But I usually don't, I try not to walk out on movies because you never know.
Yeah.
But pretty much you're pretty sure like, oh, this is trash. So.
All right, folks. Well, we have run all out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of AMC Movie Talk. Listen, don't forget, lots of great films playing in AMC theaters every right now. Head on over right now to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. If you haven't done so already, make sure you click on the subscribe button and click that thumbs up button just as a way of letting us know that you like the show that we're doing. And listen, don't forget, if you want an audio-only version of this show, look in the description of this video and you'll find a link to our podcast feed so you can listen to us on your way to work or all types of fun stuff like that. I want to thank the people sitting at the table with me. First of all, sitting to my immediate right, the one, the only Miss Miri Jetikin. Miri, where can people find you online?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miri the Jedi.
Sitting right beside her, of course, is writer-director Mr. John Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, just at John Schnepp. And if you want to donate to my film, the documentary The Death of Superman Lives, go to schneppzone.com/SupermanLives and get your name in the credits. Thanks.
And of course, our lovely host today, Miss Ashley Mova. Ashley, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Ashley Mova. Bye, guys.
And you can find me online at all the various social media networks, just at John Campea. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name's John Campea for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey everyone, if you liked this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC Movie Talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.